So if you're someone who's considering taking the GMAT but unsure what's the right way to do it, if you're someone who's not sure whether to go ahead with preparing on your own, enrolling in a live batch, purchasing an online self-paced course, or maybe availing the services of a private tutor, if you're not sure how long a GMAT prep should take, then this video is for you. Hi, my name is Anshuman Bhardwaj, and I've been teaching for the GMAT and the GRE for more than 10 years now. And in this video, we'll talk about the right way of getting started with the GMAT prep and some very important things to keep in mind for the remainder of the prep as well. Let's get started. When you put your mind and energy into achieving something big, into accomplishing a huge task, the first thing that you want to do is be very clear of what your goal is. So in context of GMAT prep, you should be aware of what your target score is. Is it GMAT 705 and above? Is it 665 and above? So whatever schools and programs that you're targeting, it's a good idea to visit the websites of those schools and get an idea of what's the average GMAT score or the median score of the people who've gotten into that program. So that gives you a benchmark. It gives you a very clear goal that you're aiming for. Once you're clear of what is the score that you're targeting, now you need to benchmark your current or your starting ability. This is a very important step, something that most students don't do. See, your prep is a function of what kind of effort and what kind of time it will take for you to achieve the target that you've kept in mind, which of course is a function of where you started. So let's say, for instance, that you're targeting a 685 and your starting ability is currently a 535. So you're trying to, improve your score by about 150 points, and your prep will be shaped according to the kind of improvement or the delta of the improvement that you seek. So having a good idea about your starting point is really important. Now, this is something that most students don't do. So how can you do that? Go to the mba.com, register yourself. You get a GMAT starter kit. You'll have few, questions that you can practice, and you'll get, 2 official GMAT mocks free. Take any one of those without any comprehensive prep. Take it just as a diagnostic, right? Use this first mock to benchmark your starting ability. It gives you a very clear idea of where you're currently at and where you need to get to. Once you do these two things, the rest of the prep would be driven by clarity and not just by random advice that you get all off over the internet from various people or some of your peers who might have taken the GMAT themselves. Now, one of the concerns that I get or hear a lot from students in terms of taking a mock as a diagnostic without any prep is that, what if they do really badly on that mock? It doesn't matter, right? There's no passing marks on this diagnostic test. It is benchmarking where you're at. It's about getting clarity, gaining clarity of what's your starting level. If your starting level is already a 635, that means you need an increment of hardly 50 points, 50 or more points. If your starting level is 505, it means you need an increment of 180 points plus. So benchmarking that is really important. Having a clarity about what your prep is aimed at achieving is important. Without that, you may be following in the footsteps of others, right? Once you have an idea of what your target score is and what your starting ability is, the next big question, of course, is what is the ideal mode of prep for you? Should you prepare at your own, self-prep? Should you purchase an online self-paced course? Should you enroll into a live batch? Or should you avail the services of a private tutor? These have, their pros and cons, and one mode of prep may be more suitable for you in particular than the other. So we'll talk about the pros and cons of each of these. The self-prep mode. So you're preparing on your own. The best thing about this mode of prep is there's no cost associated with it. It's absolutely free of cost. You may end up spending a little on purchasing various books, but besides that, there's no cost to it really. The other thing about this mode of prep is that it is largely unstructured. You're pretty much the one who's calling all the shots. You are the driver of your own prep. You are the one who dictates how you should structure your routine in terms of covering the quant, the verbal and the data insight syllabus. So unless you're very close to your target score already, and unless you're very confident about your ability to prepare at your own and you know how to structure your prep, probably this is not the best way to go about it. The next mode of prep, online courses, online self-paced courses available. Now there are many such options. So I'm not, in this video, I won't talk about which option is better than the other. That's for you to figure out. The good thing about this mode of prep is, though you will incur some cost, it is still very economical, right? And there's a definite structure to it. There's some order to it. You don't have to, let's say, go wondering what's the syllabus that you have to cover, where should you consume the content from. Once you've chosen to go ahead with a particular online course, it'll help you cover the necessary conceptual syllabus for GMAT, right? So that's a good thing about it. It still, however, is largely driven by you. You're still the driver of your own prep, right? Because there's no expert helping you live. There's no one helping you with your doubts, one-on-one. So though it's a good option and it'll help you cover the syllabus for GMAT, if you purchase a good online course, it'll also help you equip the necessary skills. Still largely driven by you though. So if you're someone who is very disciplined, who's very motivated, who's very proactive, who knows how to create a schedule and a routine for the prep, this is a good option for you. On the other hand, if you're someone who's lacks structure, you're not very great at being very disciplined, and once you take up something, you have the tendency to give it up halfway, probably this is not the best way to go here. You need something more structured. You need you need a course where someone else can be accountable for your prep, at least in some parts. Let's now talk about the live batches, right? So you're a part of a classroom, you're a part of a cohort, you have a teacher, an expert, a GMAT expert driving the prep. There's a definite structure to the course, right? And a routine that you follow. There'll be a calendar of the sessions. You'll obviously have to show up in the sessions, be attentive in the session, try to grasp as much as you can, right? And obviously put in the post-class, do the requisite post-class assignments. So even if you're not someone who's very disciplined, the discipline and the routine is part of such a live batch, right? So it can be a good option. The downside of such a course is that though you're a part of a live batch, you may not have the opportunity to still ask a lot of doubts in the session. You may still, to some degree, right? But there may be multiple people, that study with you, and the expert cannot realistically cater to an endless number of doubts in the session. The other thing that I've seen students struggle with the live batches is, see, a live batch follows a particular tune, right? So if you're someone who feels that it goes at a pace faster than what you can understand, it may happen that you end up missing all of it. For instance, if you're someone who has a phobia of math, right? And there are a lot of people in the batch who are really strong at math, and the batch and they cover the syllabus keeping such people in mind, or there's a pace to that batch. You may end up grasping very little through the live session, right? So in such a case, even a live batch won't really cater to your needs as such. So it's a great option if your natural pace matches with the pace of the batch, right? It gives you a definite structure. But if you're someone who doesn't fall into that sweet spot, if your ability for that particular, let's say, topic, be it quant, verbal, is lower than the average ability of the batch, then you may struggle to really keep up. Let's now talk about the fourth and the final option, which is availing the help or the services of a private tutor. Now, this is the best option if a great expert, someone who really knows what he or she is doing, helps you with the GMAT prep, because all of the decision making is something that the expert will do for you, right? When to study, what kind of schedule you should make, for which topic you need more sessions, what kind of gap analysis do you need, what are the areas on which most of your sessions should be focused on. All these things are decided by the expert. So it's like you outsource the decision making to the expert. There is a caveat here though, that this is also the costliest option. So if you're someone who's probably looking for something that is not too expensive, this may not be the best way to go for you. But if cost is not a concern for you, the only thing that you want is prepare properly and prepare in a manner that your prep is progressively moving towards the right direction, then this may be the way forward for you. So how long will it take for you to prepare for the GMAT? Now, there's no one answer. It's a very cliched answer to give, that it varies a lot and it depends on the individual, but the cliches are cliches for a reason. So the time that you may end up taking for the entirety of the GMAT prep is a function of many factors, actually. For instance, how close are you to your target score is definitely, if you're closer to your target score, the amount of effort that's needed is smaller compared to if you are farther away from your target score. The other thing is obviously the routine that you follow, right? Most of the GMAT students are working professionals, so they may not have the luxury of carving out a lot of time out of their weekly routine for the GMAT prep. So the amount of time that you can take out on a daily basis may be limited. Maybe you're not in a position to devote more than 1 hour realistically for the GMAT prep. So in such a case, the prep may stretch a little, and that's fine, right? So it depends on multiple factors: what's your starting ability, what's your target score, the kind of amount that you can devote towards the prep on a weekly basis. how quick you learn and grasp things, how focused you are when you're preparing or when you're studying. All these factors influence how long you may take getting to your target score for GMAT. Do not compare your journey with someone else's. Your GMAT prep journey is your own. A lot of what you do in your GMAT prep is a function of what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the areas that you want to get better at. So you cannot really compare your journey with someone else's. There are a lot of videos doing the rounds on the internet these days. XYZ achieved a 715 plus in 3 or 4 weeks. Don't compare yourself, with those people. I'll give you a couple of examples. So one of my students, Arpit, got into LBS with a GMAT score of 720, and he prepared for about 7 or 8 weeks, roughly about 1.5 to 2 weeks, something like that. So that was good enough for him to get to that score. Another student of mine, Anisha, prepared for GMAT for more than 2 years, right? It was an on again and off again prep. She had to pause multiple times for various reasons before she finally got to the score that got her an admit into NUS. There's no point in comparing your journey with someone else's. It's probably the worst thing that you can do. Instead, have clarity about what you need to do in order to develop the skills across the sections for quant, verbal, and data insights. And whatever time it takes for you to do that is the amount of time that your GMAT prep will take. It's as simple as that. There are certain things that you should keep in mind, irrespective of your mode of prep. You're studying by yourself, you've enrolled into a course, doesn't matter. There are certain things that you must keep in mind. If you keep these things in mind, the chances are your prep will be very efficient, and you'll have a much more smoother time with it. Now, the first thing is respect official questions. Don't squander them. There's a limited number of official questions that you have available, still a big enough number, and if you use these official questions judiciously, you should you may not even need questions over and above the official one. The quality and the intensity of your prep matters more than the number of questions you solve, right? So have the right attitude. Try to maximize your learning through every official question that you've gotten stuck at. Any official question that you get wrong, any stumbling block, any question that you struggle with is a building block of your prep, and you have to approach such questions with the attitude of maximizing your learning through them, right? Try to be a sponge. Observe where you went wrong, what you could have done instead. Why is the question structured in this manner? What does it really want to test? Be very observant about these things. And that's why I say quality of the prep matters more than the quantity of the questions you practice, right? Always remember that. Another thing that's really, really important, it's super important, and I see a lot of students erring on this particular aspect, and they really sabotage their prep, right? They really compromise their learning, and it is timing yourself from the very beginning. Do not do timed practice at the very start. And at the beginning of your prep, you're learning new concepts. You're getting better at the application. You're developing new skills, and that takes time. Remember the first time, let's say you learned driving, how hard it was to manage all of the things together, the steering wheel, pressing the clutch and pressing on the accelerator, changing the gear, all of it to do together was really a very hard thing to do, right? So you took your time to do it properly first, and you repeated that action multiple number of times, and as a consequence of that repetition, you got better with it, to the point that you don't even think about it when you're driving now. So that's pretty much how the GMAT prep is as well, especially in terms of gaining new skills, right? Be it, strengthening your comprehension or understanding how to analyze an argument. So all these things are skills that you develop, and be patient with these, right? Give them the time that they deserve. Do not start with timed practice from the get-go. One thing that you must figure out very early into your GMAT prep is what's your sweet spot of the amount of time that you can devote towards GMAT prep on a daily basis. Most people think that studying for greater number of hours means better productivity, more progress. That's not really the case. Being very fresh, alert, focused is as important as learning new skills. In fact, you can use your skills properly only when you're fresh, that is when you're not exhausted, you're not burnt out. So figure out that sweet spot of amount of time that you can devote towards your prep. Is it preparing for 2 hours or 3 hours on a daily basis? Does your attention dwindle? Do you get exhausted after 4 hours of prep in a day? Figure that out. And when you feel that you're exhausted, when you feel that you cannot focus, do not force yourself to study more. It'll do more harm than good. I hope I've been able to answer some of your queries regarding how to start your GMAT prep. So keep these things in mind, and I'm sure that you'll have a better time with your GMAT prep. If there's anything that you've been struggling with in particular as far as your GMAT prep is concerned, you can let me know in the comments. If you like this video, do subscribe to the channel and share it with anyone who may need to hear any of the things that I've talked about in the video.